flashing cameras, frayed nerves, and the shimmer of velvet drapes. Tension filled the Royal Crest Hotel the night Miriam Dube exploded onto the scene, every bit the powerful First Lady, determined to protect her son, no matter who stood in her way. Party lights glinted off champagne bottles as people stared, too shocked to move, while Miriam's fury snapped through the luxury suite. In moments, a VIP scandal erupted, shaking up both political corridors and the city's glossy social scene. This isn't just a fight at an exclusive party, it's a raw clash of power, ambition, and a mother's iron will. The ripples from Suite 609 won't settle quickly, pulling everyone deeper into a world where privilege burns bright and every action has a price. Night of the scandal. Inside Suite 609. The suite where it all happened was more than just a backdrop, was the stage for a power struggle that left lasting marks on everyone involved. Suite 609 at the Royal Crest Hotel is where glamour clashed with raw, unchecked force. Guests entered expecting a party. What unfolded was chaos, with ambition, privilege, and fear swirling in the air. The Royal Crest Hotel, a symbol of power and excess. The Royal Crest Hotel stands above the city skyline, its golden windows catching the twilight like a beacon. For politicians, celebrities, and business moguls, this is the first stop for anyone seeking to be seen. The lobby is polished marble, draped in heavy curtains, and every corner smells faintly of fresh lilies and expensive tobacco. Suite 609 itself is legendary. Stories say deals are struck here behind closed doors. Whispers of money and influence float under crystal chandeliers, and nobody enters unless they have status or a story to sell. The sense of safety is an illusion. One call from someone powerful, and the hotel bends its rules with silent efficiency. On that night, the hotel pulsed with freedom and indulgence. Guests arrived in sports cars and limos. Bottles popped, laughter echoed down the halls. Security watched carefully, but didn't ask questions. The Royal Crest often promises privacy, but Suite 609 proved even the most polished doors can't keep scandal from spilling out. Tessa Khumalo, caught in the crossfire. Tessa Khumalo stepped into Suite 609 ready to chase her future. She's only 20, already tall and striking, with a gap-toothed smile that caught the lenses of local photographers. Raised just outside Johannesburg, Tessa's dream was to break into the world of modeling. Not just for fame, but to lift herself and her family into another life. Her story sounds like a script written for hope. She entered small beauty contests, sometimes walking for hours just to make auditions. Instagram gave her a platform. One dress, a borrowed phone, and a bit of luck began to turn followers into modeling calls. She's ambitious but not naive. She knows how powerful people can change your life with both kindness and cruelty. Tessa saw the party as a chance. Caleb Dube, handsome and wild, invited her. She thought she could blend in, network, maybe catch the eye of someone who mattered. Instead, she found herself on a collision course with a legacy strong enough to crush anyone standing too close. First Lady Miriam Dube's sudden arrival. When Miriam Dube entered Suite 609, the mood changed in a heartbeat. Her arrival was not quiet or careful. The First Lady swept in barely dressed from her spa retreat, but every inch her reputation for authority. Silk robe, stern glare, and a bodyguard casting a long shadow behind her. Her presence alone did what security and velvet ropes could not. She turned a noisy, bubbling suite into a place ruled by fear and order. Conversation died mid-sentence. Guests shrank against the walls, unsure what would come next. Miriam's eyes measured every face in the room with a fury that dared anyone to speak. She didn't have to shout to command respect, but she didn't. Her words made it clear she held everyone's fate in that moment. The party guests, no matter their pedigree, felt small and exposed in her gaze. Even the hotel staff, used to drama and ego, watched from behind the doors, gripping their radios just a little tighter than before. The atmosphere shifted from celebration to survival. Miriam Dube took control, making Suite 609 her courtroom, her stage, and, for Tessa, a temporary prison. The assault, shock, silence, and a flash of violence in an instant. Everything inside Suite 609 changed. The glint of the chandelier, the thump of deep bass speakers, and the scent of spilled champagne were all wiped away by one sharp, violent interruption. Miriam Dube's anger came without warning, shaking the foundation of the room and the people in it. The quiet after her outburst was even louder than her shouts, a heavy, suffocating silence that trapped every witness in their spot. Emotions ran hot and cold, hearts racing, hands frozen, as the luxury and comfort of the suite collided with something raw and frightening. A mother's wrath, Miriam's motives and family reputation. Miriam Dube didn't enter Suite 609 as just a party crasher. She arrived as a mother, burning with a sense of betrayal, her fury magnified by years of keeping up a spotless public image. In the world Miriam built, every move was calculated, every friend or rival well chosen. Anything that threatened her family's reputation was an immediate threat to her own power. Why would Miriam lash out so suddenly at Tessa? For Miriam, Tessa wasn't just an aspiring model. She was a risk, a possible scandal for the Dube name. In her eyes, Tessa's presence was more than an innocent party guest. Miriam saw a reminder that no matter how tightly she tried to control her family, outsiders could slip in and set everything off balance. Her actions weren't driven only by fear for her sons, but by the protective instincts of someone who's had to fight to maintain her status. Family honor means everything in her world. She believes her role isn't only to love, but also to defend, to fight, and, if pushed, to strike back. The assault on Tessa became Miriam's twisted way of restoring control, using fear and violence as her weapons. Caleb and Tito, witnesses, sons, victims. As Miriam's wrath exploded, Caleb and Tito stood at the epicenter, not just as party hosts, but as sons, witnesses, and unwilling pawns in their mother's campaign to keep the family legacy untarnished. The shock on their faces cut through the noise. On one hand, they were privileged sons, used to living above consequences. On the other, they were suddenly powerless, caught between loyalty to their mother and guilt for the chaos she unleashed. Caleb tried to step in, his voice barely audible against Miriam's shouting. His attempts to calm things down made it clear he wasn't used to being ignored, especially by his own mother. Tito shrunk back, eyes darting around the room, searching for anyone who might step in or say something, anything to break the spell. Both brothers seemed young and unprepared when power, usually so weightless in their lives, changed sides. Were Caleb and Tito victims too? Some might say yes, being raised with expectations of obedience, loyalty, and public perfection. They never learned how to challenge their mother's iron will. But they were also witnesses, frozen by shock, indecision, and the weight of family secrets. They saw firsthand how quickly love could change to violence, how a moment of silence can say more than words ever could. Silence in Suite 609. After the outburst, after the last crack of the extension cord, a heavy silence took over Suite 609. Music, laughter, and voices were swept away, replaced by the sound of muffled breathing, racing pulses, and the haunting echo of violence. No one reached for their phone. No one protested. Time felt shattered. Everyone watching, hoping someone else would act first. This scene echoed what happens in many acts of public violence. Responsibility scattered. Fear thick in the air. Courage slipping out the back door. Bystanders froze, their instincts hijacked by shock. Some felt sympathy for Tessa, others worried about their own safety. In just a few minutes, silence became as aggressive as the violence itself, a shield for Miriam, a prison for everyone else in that room. Shock and disbelief paralyzed would-be helpers. Reputation and power convinced many to keep their heads down. Fear of consequences kept hands at sides and eyes glued to the floor as the adrenaline faded. Reality crashed down. The First Lady had crossed a line, with half the city's young elite too afraid to even whisper about what they'd seen. In Suite 609, silence didn't mean peace, it meant complicity, and for some, a lifelong burden they'd carry outside that gilded suite. Aftermath, Tessa's escape, and the hotel in crisis. The chaos in Suite 609 didn't just vanish when the shouting stopped. Tessa's escape set off a chain reaction, one that rattled the hotel's core and left everyone involved scrambling for the next move. From the manager's office to the hotel lobby and out onto the city's busy streets, the fallout was immediate and messy. As word leaked out, the Royal Crest Hotel found itself dragged into a storm that no velvet rope could hold back. The manager's dilemma, duty versus power. In the eye of this crisis stood the hotel manager. His job was to protect guests, keep scandals off the front page, and make sure the Royal Crest's image stayed untarnished. But when the First Lady was the one causing the storm, every decision felt like a risk. He faced a choice: defend Tessa and call out abuse, risking his own career and possibly the hotel's standing with powerful clients. Look the other way, prioritize the hotel's celebrity connections, and hope the story would disappear. Managers at luxury hotels often balance on a tightrope, with loyalty to the law on one side and to privilege on the other. In this case, the stakes were higher than ever. The hotel's VIP reputation was at risk if he failed to act. Ignoring the incident could invite public outrage or legal trouble. Speaking out could mean losing the hotel's wealthiest, most influential guests, with staff whispering and guests demanding answers. Every decision felt like walking into a spotlight. The crisis tested his loyalty, courage, and sense of justice all at once. Calling for help, security, and police response. As soon as Tessa stumbled from Suite 609, staff and security rushed to help. Their training had covered drunks, fights, even stolen jewelry, but nothing like this. The thin line between celebrity, mishap, and criminal assault had been crossed, and now there was no protocol to hide behind. Security acted fast. They moved other guests away from the scene, protecting both the victim and the hotel's privacy. The manager ordered staff to record statements, secure video footage, and prep a report. But the rules changed as soon as Miriam Dube's name was mentioned. Within minutes, security called the police. Following regulations, hotel leadership fielded urgent phone calls from government offices, lawyers, and even embassy contacts. Word spread that diplomatic immunity claims might be in play. The hotel's lobby became a crossroads for police looking for answers and VIP fixers spinning for damage control. Uniformed officers showed up quickly, listening to shaken staff and a bruised, trembling Tessa, but whispers about immunity and orders from above filled the air, making it clear that this situation would be anything but simple. The price of speaking out. Tessa faces the media. Tessa's escape was only the beginning of her ordeal. Once she stepped outside those polished lobby doors, the cameras were waiting. News of the First Lady's attack spread like wildfire, turning the private horror of Suite 609 into a public spectacle. As the story broke, Tessa's life spun out of control. Every reporter wanted her side. Headlines labeled her everything from innocent victim to fame-seeker. Public opinion flipped between outrage for her and suspicion about her motives. Social media exploded with theories, support, and plenty of hate. Tessa tried to hold her ground as microphones and cell phones crowded her. For many victims, speaking out means risking everything: privacy, reputation, even safety. The simple act of telling the truth felt like another fight. Still, Tessa refused to disappear. With every interview, she clung to what dignity she could. Facing the media took just as much courage as facing Miriam Dube herself, and the spotlight became both a shield and a target on her back. This aftermath exposed everyone: a hotel staff put to the test, a security team overwhelmed, and a young woman thrown into a battle far bigger than herself. The shockwaves from Suite 609 were just beginning to ripple outward. Diplomatic immunity, shield, or license to harm? Questions have always trailed the world's political power players. But diplomatic immunity adds fuel to public fire like nothing else. When the First Lady of a country is accused of physical assault at a luxury hotel, the idea that she might simply evade all consequences shakes people to the core. Is this protection meant to defend innocence, or does it grant some people a blank check for abuse? Here's what happens when privilege, violence, and immunity collide. How immunity works: the power to evade consequences. Diplomatic immunity isn't a VIP pass to escape trouble, but it often feels that way for those on the outside looking in. The law was crafted with good intentions to protect their families from harassment or false charges that might hurt international relations. In theory, it keeps leaders free to do their jobs without fear of local vendettas. Diplomatic immunity regulations are established under international treaties, most notably the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Who benefits? Heads of state, ambassadors, and their families frequently have broad protections. This extends, sometimes, to a First Lady traveling abroad. What can't they be charged for? Crimes from traffic violations up to physical assault. In many cases, leave local police and courts powerless to act. Immunity is not supposed to mean lawlessness. Home countries are urged to waive it for serious crimes or discipline their representatives. But reality shows that high-profile figures often go unpunished, at least where they were accused. For people with no such protection, this creates a sharp sense of two justice systems, one for the powerful, another for everyone else. Abuse of power, when privilege meets injustice. At its heart, diplomatic immunity is about safety, not privilege. But when those in power see they won't face trial, the line between protection and abuse can blur dangerously. The risk of injustice, GROWS, when immunity is used as a shield instead of a safeguard. Many believe this legal cloak encourages reckless or even violent behavior. When someone like First Lady Miriam Dube faces serious allegations, yet rumor says charges will never stick, it doesn't just stain her reputation. It raises tough questions about fairness and responsibility. History shows a pattern. Multiple international cases involve officials, families caught in major scandals, from unpaid debts to alleged assaults that quietly vanish thanks to immunity. Victims rarely see justice. Survivors, like the fictional Tessakumalo end up fighting both their abuser and an entire legal system built to protect the powerful. Privilege multiplies pain. Every cover-up, every whispered dismissal, signals to both victim and public that the rules simply don't apply to the connected few. A culture of silence and complicity grows stronger when people in power close ranks. Onlookers weigh their words, fearing backlash or lost opportunity, and crimes can go unchecked. In those moments, immunity stops being a shield for diplomats and becomes a license for injustice. Public outcry, social media, and international reaction. Scandals that once faded quietly now echo around the world in minutes. In today's hyperconnected world, social media can turn a single outcry into a global shout. The fallout from diplomatic scandal spreads far beyond a city or country, fueling anger, activism, and sometimes real change. Online platforms ignite debates. Twitter threads, Instagram stories, and Facebook posts can collect millions of views after shocking news breaks. Hashtags organize outrage, memes call out hypocrisy, and users demand accountability. Protests rally quickly. Social media isn't just for venting. It's a tool for organizing rallies, contacting journalists, and even influencing political decisions. International impact grows when injustice trends online. It often pressures foreign governments and international organizations to weigh in. Even if local authorities remain silent, studies underline a complex relationship. While social media sometimes only distracts or splinters attention, it also provides a space for survivors and supporters to be heard. Repression or silence can backfire, sparking even greater protest waves. Real power in modern scandal isn't held by politicians alone. The voices of everyday people, amplified across networks, have exposed injustices and forced change inside closed circles. Whether it lasts or brings true justice, public outcry ensures abuses of immunity no longer slip quietly into the night. Echoes in the corridors of power. Fallout for the Dube family and nation. A single violent incident rarely remains locked behind hotel doors when the people involved belong to a country's highest office. In the case of First Lady Miriam Dube's outburst at Suite 609, the ripple effects stretched far beyond wounded pride and stinging skin. Every move by the Dube family became breaking news. Rumors oozed through government halls, and suddenly, the world started asking hard questions about justice, power, and responsibility in South Africa. Family, nation, and global prestige faced a reckoning. Image repair, the First Lady, and damage control. In the days after the scandal, the Dube family's inner circle raced to protect their legacy. Miriam Dube, once praised for charity galas and tough speeches, saw her public persona shift overnight. A team of public relations advisors moved fast, hoping to salvage her brand. Their toolkit for damage control included curated statements. Official spokespeople released vague statements about a deeply regrettable misunderstanding, never admitting fault but asking for privacy. The aim was to show composure, not contrition. Media spin. Friendly journalists received tips redirecting attention to Miriam's philanthropy and family values. Coverage of her past successes tried to drown out the ugly rumors. Private settlements, quiet offers for mediation or compensation circled behind closed doors. Protecting the family meant silencing those who might share stories or evidence. Still, the public didn't buy the perfect image anymore. Social media users dissected statements, searching for cracks in the polished surface. Opposition leaders called for accountability, refusing to let the scandal disappear. The Dube family faced a harsh lesson. Once trust broke, no glossy press release could patch it up. People wanted answers, and sometimes revenge feels like the only form of justice available to the powerless. Caleb and Tito, haunting repercussions. While Miriam took center stage, her sons, Caleb and Tito, were caught in a storm of gossip and scrutiny. Overnight, their social lives collapsed. Club promoters who once rolled out red carpets now kept a wary distance. Friends stopped answering texts, afraid to be seen supporting the troublemakers. At home, conversations turned strained. Caleb, racked with guilt and anger, struggled to defend what happened. Every attempt made him sound either like an enabler or a victim himself. His reputation as a party king couldn't save him when his mother's name became a punchline. Tito faced a different struggle: shame. The fear on his face during the attack haunted him. Whispers about his silence grew louder. Why didn't he do something? People wondered, forgetting that fear can paralyze even the strongest. The backlash didn't end online. Invitations dried up. Their elite circle shunned anyone seen as a liability. Memes mocked the Dube sons' privilege but also their perceived cowardice. Even supporters called for them to break away from their mother's shadow. This wasn't just about losing popularity. For Caleb and Tito, the fallout cut into their identities. Were they protectors of family honor, or unwilling accomplices trapped by loyalty? The answer seemed to depend on who you asked or which headline you read that day. Diplomacy at stake, national prestige, and global eyes. When a First Lady faces assault accusations, it's not a private affair. Diplomats and presidents across Africa watched closely. Investors sniffed for signs of political instability. Suddenly, the story was about more than violence. It was about how South Africa handled its own secrets. Key ways the scandal put diplomacy and reputation at risk. International news cycles, foreign press picked up the story, pairing it with old stereotypes about African headlines in London and New York questioned South Africa's commitment to justice and women's rights. Embassy affairs. Diplomats fielded awkward questions from their host countries. Some had to reassure international partners that security, legal process, and the rights of non-citizens still mattered. Soft power damage. Years of careful image building at investment forums and charity events cracked. Instead of talking about progress, the world debated privilege and impunity. With every new leak an eyewitness quote, a blurry cell phone video, a defiant statement from Miriam. South Africa's national prestige hung in the balance. The world saw not just a scandal, but a test. Would the country shield the powerful, or hold them to account? No PR team could control the global conversation. The Dube family, and, by extension, the nation itself, would carry the scars from Suite 609 long after the headlines faded. What started in a private room now echoed across continents, shaping the next chapter of power and consequence. Suite 609 became more than a hotel room. It turned into a symbol of how power can twist justice and silence those who need protection most. The cost of Miriam Dube's actions reached far past bruised skin or a scandalous headline. It left scars on reputations, families, and the belief that justice is possible even when the powerful are involved. What happened between Tessa and the First Lady dared viewers to question the boundaries between defending loved ones and abusing authority. Stories like this, even in fiction, demand we think about who gets shielded from the consequences and who pays the price for their ambition or affection. Political drama thrives on these collisions of love, pride, and privilege. But at its heart, Suite 609 is about the people left picking up the pieces when those with power take justice into their own hands. The fictional events may fade, but the need for courage, accountability, and honest reflection never does. If this story moved you, share your thoughts and keep the conversation going. Sometimes, the biggest impact comes from those willing to speak out and demand better. Thank you for following the fallout of Suite 609, where every choice still echoes long after the night ends.